Hi everybody, it's Lori here today to talk about some books that I have read that I thought would be appropriate for the rest of the summer, some beachy type reads that I thought would be fun that reminds us all about the summer months. So for this particular week, I had some arcs that were kind of like calling my name. I went through and signed up for quite a few arcs in the beginning when I got approved on NetGalley, just thinking, okay, we'll see what I get. Well, I was approved for a lot more than I thought I would be in the beginning, and so I have a lot that I want to get through. And I thought it sounded like a really good way to get through some of them by picking up some books that reminded me of summer. So beachy type reads, something that would be appropriate to take on a weekend getaway. I'm from Michigan, so a lot of times we say going up north. So that might be in our upper peninsula, going to our upper lower, as we say, and just spending some time around the lake, campfire, that type of thing. Of course, my cat is like, I'm going to go through the crinkle toy, which is probably going to be picked up on camera. So if you hear that, she is deciding she's going to go through her little tunnel that crinkles, of course. And in any event, I had 3 arcs that we're going to talk about, and one that you saw in the thumbnail, which was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This color, whole thing, if you can see it with the shiny cover, really reminded me of summer, and I really enjoyed the first book. It's kind of like a companion novel to It Happened One Summer, which I also read earlier this year and really enjoyed. So the first book was really centered around Piper, which is the other sister in the Ballinger sisters duology here, and it focused on her being sent away by her stepfather to kind of get her life together. She goes to Westport. Hannah, her younger sister, decides to go with her to kind of be a supportive sister to her, and they end up in this town whose main economy is fishing. So they're a group of fishermen. They go crab fishing, other kinds of fish depending on the season. So that's where their birth father was and grew up, and he unfortunately died there on a fishing boat accident. And so they are sent there to run his bar for a while to get a taste of the real world. They are kind of spoiled rich kids and have no sense of what money is worth, working hard, and so they get sent there. In the original book, Piper finds love, and Hannah has an interesting encounter with a best friend of the man that Piper ends up with and has been texting him. She goes back to LA. She's involved in the movie business. She goes back to LA and they text their friends. They talk about music with one another. There's an attraction there, but they live far apart from one another. And so, trying to figure all of that out. Fox is the man that Piper has been texting and is interested in. And he is kind of known as a ladies' man, kind of, yes. He is. He never settles down. Doesn't have any serious relationships, no girlfriends. He is just seen as a player, so to speak, and never settles down to a serious relationship. So Hannah is very concerned and hesitant about getting involved with him or getting strong feelings, but there's an attraction there. So when there becomes an opportunity to film in Westport that Hannah, of course, suggests to the director, she finds herself kind of, falling for Fox, reciprocates as well with her. It's this whole back and forth. They have built this friendship together, and both of them are determined to keep it on a friendship level. Hannah has had feelings for this director. She's had a crush on him for quite some time. Fox, of course, never wants to settle down, but yet the two of them are forced together. Hannah stays with him while she's in town filming this movie, and so things develop and an attraction grows. This was such a cute book. I really enjoyed it. I like both of the 2 books. I really like Tessa Bailey's writing. Very quick and easy read. Great for the beach. Perfect summer read. Obviously the setting, fun romance. This was really good. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star. Highly recommend both of these companion novels to one another. I think it's good that I read them in the same year and enjoyed it. So if you enjoy a little bit of, spicy romance, I would definitely recommend picking up Tessa Bailey if you haven't done so already. So in complete contrast to that one, I had an arc of what was billed as a romance that was called You've Been Served by Kristen, Alicia. This was set in Michigan. So we have another transplant from California who is having some career struggles. She's not really sure what she wants to do, and so she leaves her chef position after having enough. She just has had enough with taking orders and being basically stomped on by the head chef, and decides she needs a career change. And what does she do? What makes sense to every adult out there? She uses a magic 8-ball to determine if she's going to go to law school. Law school was always her backup plan, so to speak, which is very interesting, problematic in its own way, but there we are. She decides to go with the magic 8-ball and decides to ask the question, should she go to law school? And when it comes up yes, she's like, well, I guess I am. She takes, forget what the exam is now, she takes it after studying for, I don't know, week or so, and of course she magically passes it, which again, problematic. It was a little like, what? She gets into law school at Michigan State University, which I'm from Michigan, and so I loved the Michigan representation there. So really kind of spoke to me from the very beginning. I was like, okay, I am not a Spartan fan. I am a U of M fan, go blue, but I decided to make an exception here and go ahead and pick up this arc. So this book really follows Simone, who is our career changer in question here, who decides that, okay, I'm going to apply to law school. She gets into Michigan State University, finds herself moving across the country. Her parents come to help her move in to her tiny little apartment right off campus, and she starts to realize how difficult it is to be a law student. One of the first days that she's there, she of course catches the eye of Silas and vice versa. They kind of scope each other out. And what starts there is a very nice friendship. It is supposed to be a romance, I will tell you. It is pitched as a romance, and it appears to be that way, where they're trying to feel their way around a relationship. Do they just want to be friends? Do they want more? And they're never really quite sure. And they're stumbling through the pitfalls of being legal students and all that entails with different professors, study groups, spending all of your waking hours just trying to pass all of the classes that you have there, figuring out who you can be friends with and study with, that type of thing. And so a lot of this book was really related to that. So I think that if you're interested in law, going to college, of that aged group, I think this would be good. However, for me, I am well outside of that age group, and it just read really, really young to me. So very young adults. It was billed as a romance. I really didn't see any spark whatsoever between Simone and Silas. It really felt like a really good friendship between the two of them, but I didn't see the sparks. There was absolutely no spice. So if you want a romance or a very light romance with no spice, no sizzle, no nothing, I just felt like this read really, really young for me. And so I gave it a 2.5. I think, again, if you're on the younger side or if you're interested in law school or college or things like that, this might be really good. It was a light, quick, fun read. And so I would try another book by this author. I just think it wasn't billed properly for what it was. The next book that I read was Hidden Beneath by Barbara Ross. And this was the 11th book in the Maine Clam Bake Mysteries. I have it written down. Yes, Maine Clam Bake Mystery Series. It is a cozy mystery, and I have read at least the first book in the series, if not the first two. I was trying to go back and remember. The second book sounded familiar to me, so I could have read both of those too. In any event, this is the 11th book in the series, so there's definitely been a gap of time where I haven't read some of them, and I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure if I would be totally lost. But again, I was approved for the arc, and I thought, let's just try it. Let's see what ends up happening. I don't want to downgrade something just because I was a little bit lost for some things in the book, because that's my own fault for signing up for a series that I haven't fully read through. So I thought, let's just give it a try and see what happens. We have Julia here from the Snowden family clam bake with her mother. They basically run this clam bake during the season in Maine, where they have two groups of individuals come in per day, lobster, clams, the whole shebang, bring them to their family island via boat and have this wonderful repast with all of this great food. And they get to, explore the island a little bit, and that get taken back. So they run this during the summer months on their island. They also live there in a restored building. They've restored a lot of that building, and Julia and her mother have apartments there and are living on the island. This book opens with Julia's mother asking her to go to a memorial service for one of her friends who is now been declared dead after being missing for 5 years after going out on a swimming trip that she did every single day. She would swim around the island by herself every day, and during one of those trips she went missing. They have a very close-knit group of friends that decides to put on this memorial service. Julia's mother has been involved in the group but is not one of the integral members of the group itself. So they have a very tight-knit group. Julia's mother was friends with this deceased woman separately. They've known each other since they were kids, with summers spent vacationing there in Maine. And so she knows the women, they know her, but she's not as tight with this group of women as they all are with each other. So as a part of this memorial service, Julia starts to notice things are a little bit strange. This woman's home has been cleared out, and there are some murals that she painted that have been painted over with white paint, almost like somebody is trying to cover things up. She starts asking around and nosing around, which happens in Cozy Mysteries. She finds out this is not the only person that's gone missing around the island. Another one was from a boating incident, and so she starts to poke around and figure out, like, okay, what's going on? There's more than one person that has gone missing in the waters around this island, and nobody is really raising any alarms. Is it because the police aren't looking into the deaths, or somebody trying to cover it up? So I will say I enjoyed this. There were parts of it that I really felt that I was missing things just because I hadn't read all of the books in between the first couple that I read and this book. So I was missing at least 9 books in the middle, which took away from it a little bit. So for example, Julia's love interest, that was talked about a little bit in here and was very confusing because she was dating or starting to date somebody in the first couple of books, and now all of a sudden things have changed. So that was confusing, but didn't detract from the overall book. I think this could be a standalone. There's enough here, enough meat, meat of the book, that you don't need to have a lot of background here. And it really focused on Julia and her mother and this group of friends, and what was going on with them, the police, all of the other missing people that haven't been found, basically, and Julia investigating and nosing around and trying to put the pieces together. Overall, I would say this was a solid cozy mystery. I'll give it a 3.5 star. I thought that some of the things seemed a little bit implausible, I guess is a good word to say here. The ending seemed a little bit implausible. Just some of the things that happened, just the way the solution kind of worked itself out was interesting. You know, sometimes that happens in mysteries. I did enjoy it. Reminded me of why I liked this series. So I need to go back and kind of catch up with this series. So I will be going back and reading, I think it's the 3rd book in the series, and going from there. So the 4th book that I read this week was Lay Your Body Down by Amy Suter Clarke. This was a religious cult. So if that kind of triggers you, if religion in general or cults trigger you, this might not be the book for you. But I had just watched Shiny Happy People about the Duggar family, and so this was very timely. I was really just wanting to sink my teeth into more about religious cults, and so this was perfect. I picked it up, and it was very hard to put down, though I will say the main character here was maddening. So let's talk about her a little bit. It was Delilah, or Dell as she goes by now, who is returning home to her childhood home that she fled, who is returning home after finding out that her childhood boyfriend, Lars, has suddenly died. And she can't believe it. I mean, he's young, seemingly in great health. She doesn't know what happened, just finds out that he has died. And this happens right after he left a message for her, a voicemail on her phone, that she never did return. So it was within a few days. He leaves something along the lines of, you were right, please call me back. And she instantly regrets not calling him back once she realizes that he is now deceased. She'll never have the opportunity to talk to him to know what he was calling her about. And so she decides, I'm going to go to the funeral and try to figure out what is going on. Complicating this a little bit more is that Lars actually had married Delilah's friend, Youve. Youve basically stole Lars right out from underneath her. She set her sights on Lars and decided, yep, I'm going to marry him. And Del had no chance. Youve is there, of course, with Lars and her daughter, and this religious group called the Church of Messiah, who for all intents and purposes from the outside seems very much like a cult. So they have control over the entire town, all of the businesses there. They are run by a very powerful pastor who has everybody under his thumb. Youve has also contributed to that and the growth of the church also because of her blog that she runs called The Noble Wife. She has run it for years and so has gained quite the following for herself and the church as well with her take on biblical teachings about the noble wife. It was very archaic and very eye-popping. A lot of the things that she said in her blogs, you'll see that throughout the book. They have excerpts from her blog posts throughout the years. It was very interesting to see that. So you follow Delilah, who can only be described as incredibly naive. That's the nicest way I can say it. She is incredibly naive and bumbles her way. She's trying to investigate, does not know what she's doing. Oh my goodness. The things that she does just... it's cringeworthy throughout, but she really doesn't know what she's doing. And she was raised in such a way, sheltered way, that she doesn't know how to have these conversations with people. She doesn't know who to trust. The police are in the back pocket of the church, so she can't really go to them. It seems like every decision she makes is just terrible. So you're on the edge of your seat the entire time. You think you pretty much kind of know what happens, but how do we get to the solution? And is, Delilah going to get herself and everybody killed in the process of this investigation? So I will say it was a wild, wacky ride through a religious cult with all of the people that you really don't know who to trust. Delilah is unreliable in her own way. Oh my goodness. It was wild and wacky, something that was very difficult to put down. I'm going to give this a 4-star. I really did enjoy myself. I think part of it was because I had just watched that documentary and wanted more at the time. It was very timely in the reading of this book. So I think that really helped. I did enjoy it. Again, the characters are pretty maddening, and a lot of the belief systems were a little bit triggering to me as well because I grew up in an evangelical church. And so trying to come to grips with all of those things in my own life as well kind of came to a realization recently, very shocking realization recently. And so trying to deal with all of those things in my own life and then seeing all of these things on page just had me nodding along and was a very interesting read. But yes, I had a great time with this, 4-star, and highly recommend if religious cults and talking about that does not bother you, if you're not triggered by those things, go ahead and pick these up. All of the books that I have mentioned today are actually published now. So you can pick them all up, get them from your library, wherever, ebook, whatever the case might be. So they are out now and you can find them at your local bookstore or library, hopefully. Check them out, see what you think. I think these were all really great beachy or vacation type reads. None of these were overly long or involved. They were quick, fast-paced reads that I think would be really appropriate for a weekend getaway, week-long trip. You're going on a cruise and you want to take a book with you to take on vacation. I had a great week. Let me know if you decide to pick up any of the books or if you've read any of these already. Let me know your thoughts down below. And if this is the kind of content that you like and enjoy, make sure you give me a thumbs up for this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.